See how well I do this. No idea how well this is going to turn out, but hi, name's Nick. One of the modders at Incursion Red River, and yeah, figured I make some a little mini series on how to mod Incursion Red River. Please keep in mind, I'm not a content creator by any means. Neither am I an expert modder, so we'll get through this together. But whole point is to do 3 or 4 parts on how to mod, how to set up everything, how to change textures, change values. A lot of it's replacement. But hopefully give you the basics on how to implement your ideas into the game. So, all right. Well, in this part, it's all about setting up software. It's a lot of softwares that are gonna be useful in modding. There's 2 big resources I'm gonna point out. It's gonna be this GitHub repo from DMG Vol called UE Modding, Unreal Modding. There's a lot of really good guides in here. They're designed for encapsulating Unreal 4 and Unreal 5 in a wide berth. So for Incursion Red River specific, I highly recommend the Incursion Red River modding Discord. It's an official Discord. I'll bring this up right here. Which has lists of mods. A lot of the big modders, the people who are actively working on stuff, are all in here. I'm in here. The devs are in here. It's a Discord from the developers of Incursion Red River. Highly recommend getting in there. That will also be in the description. Good place to ask questions and try to figure out together the game. So, all right. Well, the first step in all of this is the Unreal Engine. So, search Google Unreal Engine, unrealengine.com. and click get Unreal Engine. It's going to install the Epic Games launcher. It's owned by Epic Games, so if you have played games like Fortnite or anything like that, you probably already have the Epic Game Launcher. If you already do, all you're going to do is open up the Epic Game Launcher, search for it, and when it opens up, you're going to, normally, when you're in the Epic Game Launcher, you're focusing on the store and, the libraries where you've kind of probably spent most of your time. Well, you're going to go to Unreal Engine, and then you're gonna go to your library. Now, I've already installed Unreal 5.4, but for you either click up here and install, or you can go click a new engine version if you already have an older version installed, and go find 5.4.4. Quick note, Unreal Engine's games are broken out into 3 different numbers. It's a major, a minor, and then a patch. So that's what 5.4.4 means. The first 2 of those are what are important. So the last number doesn't matter. Incursion Red River at its current point, today is July 26th, is at 5.4.2 is what the game is built on. The last number doesn't matter nearly as much for modding, but the first 2 do. So make sure that we're getting the right engine number. For a future update, which some of the video, a lot of the information in this will change in future updates, all you have to do is go find your Incursion Red River games folder. Usually it's Project Quarantine in your Steam library. All right, jumping in one more time. I'm probably going to be doing this a lot during this. If you can't find, or you don't know how to find your Steam games folder, go search for Incursion Red River. If you right-click, manage, browse local files. That's another way to get to the correct game folder. If you ever don't know where it's at, don't know where to find it, that's the easiest way to go navigate to the correct folder. And if you go in and you right-click, properties, and you go to details, the engine version will be in the details of the executable, the main exe for the game. So that's how you can tell what version it is. Please keep in mind that a lot of the other programs we're going to install during this may or may not be up to date with the current or most latest Unreal Engine. And as the game moves forward in engines and versions, certain tools may or may not work. So again, more reason to be in the modding Discord and kind of keep up to updates of when those things are happening. So you're going to install 5.4.4, and once that's finished, you can leave it for right now. We'll come back to that later. So the next arguably important software to install is the Unreal 4 scripting system. Now, most of this mod right here, or this change of software to your game, a lot of it is in aid of higher end modding. It's advanced modding, blueprint, injection, blueprint, stuff like that. There's one specific feature though that Unreal 4 scripting system allows us to do, which is dump the mappings file. don't need to worry too much about what a mapping file is, other than it's effectively, think of it like a map of a game's name structure and data structure that allows our other softwares to understand what they're looking at when you're digging into the game files. Mapping files, I've generated a couple and I've put them in the Discord for others. So you don't necessarily need this, but I'm not going to always be able to do that, and someone may not always be able to do that. So it's good for you to know how to grab one in case, for some reason the mapping file in the Discord isn't working. So fairly simple download, but there's a caveat. So there is an experimental version of this. The normal version will not work for Unreal 5, but the experimental will. However, the install's kind of finicky. So what you're going to go to the Unreal 4 scripting system Discord, Discord, GitHub, and what we're going to want to go to is releases. When you're in releases, we're going to download first the initial release. We need to download at least the initial release. So without knowing how to do git, clone, and all that stuff, all you'll need to do is go down all the way down to assets and just click the 3.0.1.zip. See installs. The next thing we're going to also need to grab from this is you need to go all the way back up, hit releases, which then you'll see the experimental-latest, which is pre-release. If we scroll all the way down, you will see another, or under assets, you'll see another, and it's 3.0.1 dash, and then there's a bunch of numbers. You're also going to want to grab that. I will note, if you go back to the original, or this main Unreal page, there is a docs link, top right. And in here, it actually goes over the installation guide right here. So if you hit full installation guide, we're going to be doing the experimental install. So this is, if you get lost or confused, or I'm not explaining it well, that's another place to go look. All right, so now that we've downloaded the zip files from the GitHub, what you're going to do is going to open up the .0. I'm using WinRAR, but you can use any zip unzip tool. We're going to open up both. So we have both windows open. You can right now we can just minimize the experimental, so we just have 3.0.1. In your file structure, you're going to go find your Steam folder like we did initially to check the version. You're going to go into test C, binaries, Windows 64, and perfect. Now, you'll notice I already have it installed, but the install will be effectively the same for you. You won't have a bunch of this stuff. So what we're going to do, you're going to grab 3.0.1. You're going to highlight all of these except for the little dot if you're using WinRAR. And you're going to just drag it over and unzip it. You won't have this replace. Actually, you will. You will have some replace. You're going to say yes to replace. You're going to move everything over. Cool. Now, while we're in this folder, I'm going to go to the other .zip. I'm going to close. We don't need this one anymore. We have this one. And we're going to drag this new, or the experimental latest. We're going to drag that also into Project Quarantine. And then, yes, also replace. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we have the base install here, and then the UE4SS. That is the experimental version of the scripting system plugin. So what we're going to need to do is point the stable release to the experimental. So how we do that is right-click, New, Text Document. You're going to call this override.txt. Now, simply enough, we're going to open this up, and we're going to add just one line. It's going to be ./UE4SS. That is it. And all this is doing is it's overriding when the game starts and it's injecting the scripting system into this. It is all it's going to do is it's going to, instead of looking at this DLL and looking at this info, it's going to point to this folder and use these settings, these items. So I'm going to save that. Close it up. Once that's done, you're going to go to UE4SS. You're going to go to your settings.ini. And in your settings.ini, there's a bunch of options here, and I'm not going to go through each one of them. Some minor housekeeping I like to do is in the major and minor version, I like to put 5 and 4, like we talked about at the beginning of the video. But the big thing we want to do is we want to scroll down until we find the debug. And I like for dumping map files, setting these all to 1. Just makes life easy. We're gonna say you could hit File, Save, or Control S, however you're gonna save it, and you want to close out the settings. So while we're at this step, let's go grab the mappings file. So it's gonna look like this. This is the mapping files I generated prior, but we're gonna generate a new one. So all you're gonna do now is gonna open up Incursion Red River, Steam. And you'll see, boom, we have 2 new windows that pop up now that didn't normally pop up. And then we have Incursion Red River. I would recommend that in your settings in Incursion Red River, you set it to windowed mode. It makes it much easier to get out of this program, go to your other programs without, your computer lagging or freaking out. Just makes it easier. So in this debug tool, we want to go to dumpers, and you'll see a button called generate.usmap You're just going to click it. You'll see over here on this page, it says on this console, maps generation completed successfully. Cool. So when you've done that, we can just exit out of the game entirely. And in here, you'll have mappings.usmap. And you can rename this. I rename it usually to the version number, as you see here, but you can name it whatever or just leave it the same. But that's the mappings file. So now you have your mappings file, and if you want to, you don't want to have that menu come up every single time you play, you can go back into your settings and set this all back to 0 and save that. All right, so the next item, now that we have our mappings file, is fModel. This is going to be a very, very important software, probably the most important software out of all of the things we've talked about so far. It's easy install. All you're going to go is fModel.app. Again, all this will be in the description below. You're going to hit download. All right, so once you've got the .zip exe, I would recommend somewhere on your computer, doesn't matter where, it could be your documents, it could be a separate drive, doesn't matter. You create a folder called Tools, Unreal Tools. I have mine, Unreal Tools, but it doesn't matter. It's something you can recognize. And create a folder, and then in that folder, create another folder called fModel. This will just make it easy. A lot of the tools we're going to install are going to be just folders you're going to download with the exes package into it. So highly recommend doing that just to stay organized. So in fModel, in this .zip, you'll see fModel.exe. All you're going to do is drag that .exe over to that new folder. I'm going to double click run this. I recommend installing the latest release. So say yes to that. Cool. So once fModel's up, it might try to load Fortnite, Valorant. It might try to pick a random game to load. You're going to go to directory selector. In your selector, it may populate Project Quarantine, Incursion Red River, may not. So in my case, it didn't. So what we're going to need to do, add undetected game. Here, I'm just going to call it Incursion Red River. This will get overwritten. And you're going to go hit the ... And you're going to go to your your Project Quarantine folder right here, where you see engine and test C, select folder, add. So boom, now we've added up here. The last thing we need to do, again, change the game version. So major minor, it's 5.4 is 5 is the major version, minor version's 4. So go down here, 5_4. That's the Unreal. Click OK. It's going to ask to restart. All right, so now that you can see the Project Red River game files, which you'll see like 1 through 9, all these different pack files here. If you notice, let's say we bring this to all, we load it all, so we have the game files here, and go into the blueprints, this folder, a little 5 there, which means there's packages inside that folder, and let's try to open up the PAL blueprints file. You'll get an error. You can't serialize. That's because oh wow, it got so bad that fModel wanted to restart. We don't have a mappings file set up with this. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go settings. Once you get into your settings, and you'll see the local mappings file. You're gonna click enable on that, and you're gonna point this to your game file. And we're gonna go find where that mapping file was generated. We just generated. So it's your Steam library, Project Quarantine, engine. Sorry, not engine. Test C, binaries, Windows 64, Unreal 4 SS, and then you have your mappings files here. We're going to use the mapping file we just generated. Click open. Okay. And now, if we click load, try to go into blueprint and open up that PAL file again. Now we got data. Now it loads. So boom, at this moment, we're set. We're good. We're going to hold off on going into fModel to a future video. All right, so the next item that we want to install, Unreal Asset GUI. So this is going to be the primary tool we're going to use to edit and dig through in an easy way, dig through the kind of the game data file. So, you know, the amount of ammo per clip, stuff like that. So simple enough. You're gonna go to the Unreal GUI GitHub page. I'm gonna have that link below. You're gonna go to your releases, and just like we did everything else, you're just gonna download the .exe. And now we have that. All right, so we're gonna go back into the folder you made that has all the kind of the tools you have. We're gonna create a new folder called Unreal Asset GUI, or you can name it whatever you want. And we're going to take the exe that you downloaded, and you're going to drag it right in there. Boom. And now you have it. You can double click open it. Might try to protect it. Click run anyway. And now we have Unreal Asset GUI. I highly also recommend, just for ease, right click, and you can send these to your, you can send it to the desktop. If you want a shortcut there, you can pin to start, which will pin it like down over here. Highly recommend doing stuff like that. Makes the kind of the workflow easier, especially as they're going to get into these files often. So that's it. Actually, lied. Make sure when you're in Unreal Asset GUI, you import your mappings, and the same thing like we just did with fModel, test C, test C binaries, Windows 64, Unreal scripting system, maps, boom. And then type Incursion Red River, whatever you want to call it. And boom. And if you ever want to switch mappings, it's going to be the top right. It's over here, top right here. And you can change your what Unreal version you have, which is 5.4. So boom, Unreal Asset GUI, that's installed. Another software I'm just going to point out, I'm not going to install it here, but again, there's really good documentation of how to install it. It's called Unreal Engine Unlocker. This is a really good testing tool. Allows you to speed up the game state, pause AI animations, hide your HUD. It does a lot of those type of features. It's just a really good way to just speed run tests. Like if I'm needing to testing some spawn rates or something, I can speed up the game, run really quick, and pause the AI from shooting at me, so I can just go speed run opening up safes, for example, if I'm looking at those spawn rates. So highly recommend if you need a testing tool, want some more control on your game. Unreal Unlocker is a really good tool for that. Cool. The next tool is PakMaster. There's you'll see a lot about packing, unpacking. It's a very important aspect of modding. I like PakMaster personally, just because it has a UI, has an actual, window. It's not all command line, so it makes it easy for people who are getting into modding to understand what it's doing. So this is a similar install to like all the other installs. You can go to your release, go to the Windows zip. It's going to install a zip file. We're going to open that up real quick. We have PakMaster in. I'm going to go into the tool and guides folder, and we're going to drag and drop this in here. Let it finish, let it think about itself for a second. And now we have it. Cool. I'm going to close out the WinRAR. PakMaster, and right here, and simple enough, we just double click the exe and it's open. Yes, we want to make sure we install these dependencies. All right, so once the dependencies are downloaded, we'll get into this in a future video of how to actually use the software, but it's good to have for a future video. So last kind of honorable mentions, I highly recommend a software like Visual Studio Code. That's a really good text editor, especially some of the file formats are in JSON. It makes it really easy to view and parse the data. Or you could also use Notepad++. There's a bunch of Sublime text. There's a bunch of different text editors. So Notepad doesn't always make it easy to parse and understand the data in front of you, versus this will have highlighting and all those other details. So I highly recommend Visual Studio Code. A lot of the mods that you're going to be making will be either changing numbers in the config or the game files, like, spawn rates of this, or the bullet penetration of XYZ, the stamina of this. That you have all the stuff you need right now. But the other major type of mods will be texture mods or mesh replacement mods. And that requires 3D modeling. Now, Blender is the best, cheap, free, easy. I won't say easy. It's the best free solution out there. There's a lot of tools built for Blender. So recommend getting Blender. The version doesn't matter nearly as much. There's a lot of preferences between the different versions. A lot of the plugins work for different versions depending on. You'll have to go find the right plugin type, but I run Blender 4.0, but it doesn't matter. But I recommend installing Blender, and then specifically for modding with Unreal Games and Unreal Engine, recommend you getting UEformat, and this is a Blender plugin that allows you to import models, which again we'll get into and use this plugin heavily when I get into the texturing and model replacement parts of this series. So, but that's everything. You are at this point have all the software checked off to be able to mod Unreal Engine games, specifically Incursion Red River. So, next part, I am going to be getting into how to browse through the assets, how to edit values, and then the last or the third part would be texture editing. And then if I have time and there's an interest for it, I might make a video about how to swap models around. So, stay tuned. Again, anything I don't cover, any questions, concerns, whatever. You have this Unreal guide, which a lot of the links in my description will be also in useful links here. And it has good step-by-step guides about how to extract mappings, and how to do everything I'm trying to do and some more. So it's a really good element. Also, the Incursion Red River modding Discord, I'll have that link below. It's a really good asset if you need to ask anyone in the community who's been doing this how to do certain things. Lastly, I do stream on Twitch occasionally, randomly, mostly modding and some other stuff. So feel free to check in, pop in there when you see me live, NickT_TTV, and more than happy to either answer questions, or if you just want to watch and see how I'm doing things, you can go check me out there. So perfect. See you in the next video.